Here's the radio I'm going to use. It's a nice collectible Crosley, a little dusty. We'll clean that up later. Here's the back. It's a Model E10BE. And this is the overall wiring diagram. And I'm going to start with the half-wave power supply. The rectifier is a 35W4, and the AC comes in through the power plug, and the 35W4 cuts this in half, so we end up with DC pulses. At the cathode, we have a pi filter, and these pulses are filtered through this pi filter, and we end up with usable DC for this radio. Here is the antenna for this radio. It gets connected to the 12BE6, which amplifies the circuit. And here I have added in the local oscillator. The local oscillator frequency and the frequency from the station gets mixed together, and if we just had a resistor as a load, what would be there would be all kinds of harmonics, and there would be 4 major ones that would be usable. Of course, the 2 original, the radio station frequency and the local oscillator frequency, but we would also have the addition of both, and we would also have the subtraction of both, and that's the one we're going to use, the difference between the oscillator minus the radio station frequency, and that's going to be 455 kilohertz is going to be the intermediate frequency. And this gets set to 2 very high Q tank circuits. This is the first IF, and both those tank circuits are tuned very sharply to 455. And we're going to take a look at what this looks like when this is tuned to a radio station. And we're going to put the scope on right here and take a look.
We continue to watch the heavy rains that are in the area. Some of them have died down, but there is still a bit more. As you just heard from AccuWeather, those rains should be in our area for the next couple of hours, some of them lighter than others. And of course, we will continue to keep you posted because we are your severe weather station at WPTF. Stay with us. Still to come on the Triangle's Evening News. CBS News Brief is just 4 minutes away.
Now, this signal that we saw in the video is sent over to the 12BD6, and it amplifies this 455 modulated carrier, and it gets sent to another high Q tank circuit known as the second IF. And when that comes out the secondary of the second IF, there is almost nothing else but 455 modulated carrier. Very highly filtered circuit. Now when we add the 12 AV6 to this, notice that the secondary is hooked up to a diode. And what this does is it cuts this modulated carrier in half. And what we have here is the negative half. And when I add in the C8A capacitor, This is an RF bypass capacitor, and what that does is it drains off the 455 carrier, and what we're left with is audio. And here is a picture of the inside of this radio. We got the 12 AV6, and that large rectangle is the beginnings of the idea for printed circuit board. That package contains C8A, B, C, D, and E capacitors. Now I have added in the ABC circuit, the automatic volume control. And we're going to take a look with a voltmeter across capacitor C5. And we're going to take a look and see what happens here. This C5 is storing our negative voltage. And where this gets applied is to the center grid of the 12BE6, the very first tube, and the control grid of the second tube. And how this works is the stronger the station, the more negative volts we're going to have. And so in other words, when I tune in a station, we'll see that capacitor C5 is storing up negative voltage. And the way tubes work is the more negative you make a grid, the less that tube will amplify. And of course, the capacitor and that 2.2 megohm resistor have been chosen so it will balance this circuit so that when you have a strong station, it cuts down the amplification of the first two tubes, and when you have a weak station, not so much. So it tries to even out, as you're tuning across the band, the volume of all the stations that it can pick up. It's pretty neat, actually. So here's a video, and like I said, we're going to take a look across C5 and see what it looks like. And I do have a picture of where I have this set up right here. C5 is a .08 microfarad capacitor.
You're listening to the Triangle's Afternoon News with Steve O'Brien on FM 98.5 and AM 680 WPTF.
And good afternoon, my friends, and welcome once again onto the Triangle's Afternoon News. It is your Monday afternoon. It is the last week of August 29th, 2022. Labor Day weekend coming up this weekend. We thank you for joining us today for the Triangle's. We'll have CBS News with the latest updates at the top and the bottom of the hour, and of course the latest from the WPTF News Center from now until 5 o'clock, and then at 5 o'clock, of course, our 2-hour wrap-up of today's news since you've been out and about, working or wherever you happen to have been. That'll be coming up at 5 o'clock today. Weather map looks good. We're dry, except for a little bit around the shore. We can tell you a little bit more about that, and we'll be talking with AccuWeather at 5:10 today to get the latest on.
Now the rest of the audio that's coming out of the secondary of the second IF goes through a 47k ohm resistor to the volume control. And I have set the scope up across the volume control so we can see what that looks like.
Let's continue out as you make your way towards Wade Avenue. I'm John Champion. You're never more than 8 minutes from the next traffic report this afternoon on WPTF.
The traffic reports, love them. I count on it to get me to work on time.
It's my #1 news source. exclusive WPTF AccuWeather forecast.
Tonight, cloudy and humid, a low 69. Clouds and sun with a thunderstorm in spots in the afternoon. Tomorrow, high.
This signal coming from the volume control goes up to the control grid of the 12 AV6. It amplifies it and ships it over to our output tube, which is 50C5. That signal gets applied to the control grid of the 50C5. The 50C5 amplifies this signal, and now this signal is strong enough to drive a speaker. So this is the typical AA5 radio and how the circuit works. Thanks for watching.